Tonight, Regina City councillors agree personal disputes distract from important work, but those disputes keep happening. Also, youngsters in Saskatoon could soon spend more time in the classroom as full-day kindergarten gets expanded to 25 schools. Plus, Riders quarterback Trevor Harris will be throwing to some familiar targets when the season kicks off this weekend.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, June 8th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. We begin tonight with what should have been a happy day at the grand opening of a newly improved Regina pool. Instead, the new Wascana pool facility closed early. Regina police confirmed that there was an incident involving bear spray in a change room at the pool. Officers are currently investigating. In a release, the city says the pool is closed for the day. The plan is to reopen tomorrow with increased security. Before the incident, we did stop by to meet some of the smiling swimmers who were among some of the first to try out the lazy river and the water slide. We'll share that with you a little later in the show. Regina Council is hard at work. Yesterday, Council's meeting went on for 8 hours. But as Alexander Kwan reports, it's actually disputes that are taking up a large amount of time.
On my part, I will work with anybody. I'm willing to bury the hatchet so long as it's not in my back.
To say that some Regina City councillors don't get along would be a bit of an understatement. And while disputes are common at council, some would say even healthy and encouraged, disagreements are now coming to dominate the news coming out of City Hall. Council is guided by a code of conduct. Since its adoption in 2017, only 2 people have violated the rules. Both were during this council's tenure. In September of last year, Councillor Tarina Nelson violated rules around treating residents and fellow councillors with respect. Then this week, Councillor Andrew Stevens was found to have breached confidentiality after sharing a report dismissing complaints he'd filed against Nelson. Council declined to punish either of them. Many in council chambers just want to get back to civic issues.
It's done. I want to move on. I don't want to deal with this anymore. We've got many other issues to deal with that are more important.
But the bad blood is still there. And after hours of debate on conduct violations, it's become clear that certain councillors don't trust each other.
It tells me that the commissioner process is being weaponized by the councillor, and for that, I'm not in the position to offer a meaningful apology. Instead, I will offer an apology to council for how much time and energy this vexatious complaint has caused, and for that I am really sorry.
Many councillors say they are willing to put aside their differences and want to work together. The mayor says the results are clear.
The really important part is council has no problem doing business. You saw it tonight. We've seen it since the beginning of the year. We have passed an enormous amount of legislation and bylaws, investments, applications for funding, and so the business of council is continuing on just fine.
These disputes come as a clock is ticking on this council. There's just over a year until the next election. A third conduct complaint, this time against Stevens and Councillor Dan LeBlanc, still needs to be resolved. So while some city councillors want to get back to work, it doesn't look like things are going to be settling down anytime soon. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says the provincial government is playing favorites when it comes to allocation of new funding. Last week, the province announced it was providing an extra $40 million to divisions. Half of it went to address class size and composition, the other half for enrollment. STF's president says $40 million is not enough to make up for budget shortfalls. She says the money for composition was not divided appropriately between urban and rural divisions.
So 20 million of the 40 was for enrollment, and we did see more enrollment in large urban centers. So it does make sense that urban centers received more funds there. But the other 20 million was for class complexity. And we see very large classes in our urban centers. We see very extreme needs of students in our urban centers. But we see those same challenges in our rural centers.
Bicot says the government is making a mistake, spending more than $50 million to create a distance learning crown. The government says the newly created Saskatchewan Distance Learning Centre will save divisions money annually. Young kids in Saskatoon could soon be getting an extra boost to their learning. Saskatoon Public Schools is expanding full-day kindergarten classes to 25 schools this fall. Aishwarya Duda has the details.
You can smile at me.
Some working parents, like Emily Tucker, are excited about the move. Tucker has 3 kids, with one son already in kindergarten, and her daughter will start in the next school year.
I think it would make it a lot easier for myself because at the moment, I have 3 kids, so I'm running around anyway. She'll be in daycare, she'll be in kindergarten every other day or every day, whichever we do. But it would definitely make my life smoother.
Another Saskatoon parent, Megan Kardash, sends her kids to private school every day for the full day. She believes developing a love for education early on gives kids the foundation to grow throughout their lives and kickstarts their move to grade 1.
I wish there'd been a public school option for me. My kids did go to private school from ages 2 to 5. My little guy is still in. And, I did start with a part-time there, but both of my children chose full-time. They wanted to stay with their friends.
Nearly 750 children will benefit from the new program. It's being paid for with money from Saskatoon Public Schools Foundation. Now, different schools will offer different programs throughout the week, including half-day every day, full day every alternate day, and like the school behind me, City Park is offering full day every day.
Children seek consistency. And so being able to attend and see their same group of friends, know what the routine is from morning, being there at lunchtime, being there near the end of the day, consistently across days, we see that children absolutely thrive in that environment.
There will be limited spots, and parents can find more information on the Saskatoon Public Schools website's kindergarten page. There's also a map on the website with each of those 25 schools, their locations, and contact information. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Earlier this week, we shared a Saskatchewan woman's experience with medical assistance in death. Today, Quebec has passed a law to expand MAID. The new law allows people to ask for that assistance before they're incapacitated by a degenerative disease. It also grants access to those with severe physical impairment, resulting in a significant and persistent disability. Also, the procedure can now be performed in several locations besides hospitals or healthcare centers. They include long-term care facilities and funeral homes. Well, there are still some remnants of last night's storm in Regina, much calmer now than things were last night. That storm whipped right in and, of course, flooded the underpasses again. The bright side of all the rain, if you're not getting water in your basement, it's how lush and green everything looks. Stay with us. Ethan has your forecast after the break. Saskatchewan Roughriders quarterback Trevor Harris will see 2 familiar faces in the huddle in Sunday's season opener in Edmonton, former teammates Rel Walker and Jake Weineke. The 2 CFL veteran receivers have been reunited with Harris in Regina after playing with him in the past. Walker in Edmonton and Weineke in Montreal. Walker and Harris look good in Winnipeg, connecting twice, including a touchdown. Harris will lean on the 2 vets as the Riders could have 5 new starters at receiver on Sunday. Both Walker and Weineke are coming off down years by their standards, but they're ready to prove any doubters wrong.
The cool thing about football, and even I think in our receiving group too, maybe a lot of guys were not real big name guys, or people think that certain ones were on the downside or whatever, didn't come off of a good year. But I mean, that's the cool thing about football is every day is a new day, and we get an opportunity to come out here and compete and get better.
Having guys like Jake and myself who are very, very familiar with Trevor, we know how he's going to maneuver day to day. We know he's a great leader. It's just for the other guys to figure that out, but I'm sure by now that they have. Trevor's a great guy. He leads by example, always has.
Walker may have extra motivation on Sunday as he'll be facing his former Elks. Edmonton has a CFL record 17-game home losing streak.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. It is a good thing that team hasn't been practicing at night because it would have been wet.
Oh, yeah. Last night, Regina getting quite a bit of rain. And yeah, we've seen that quite a bit in the month of June here in the Queen City. In fact, let's take a look at just how much rain we normally get in June in Regina. This is based off a 30-year average from Environment Canada. We usually get about 71 millimeters in the Queen City in June. So far in June 2023, we've had 63 millimeters according to airport data from Environment Canada. So that's about almost 90% of our June rainfall, and we're just kind of into the first week of it here. Saskatoon, we're a little bit drier. Usually we see about 66 millimeters, and so far this June we've seen about a third of that. Now that's not all that bad considering we are about a third of the way through the month, so lots of time to get that moisture, and we are still seeing a little bit of that moisture in the province right now. Some severe thunderstorm warnings have dropped off that were in place a bit earlier. We had a warning around the Abernethy area for this little cell that's now dying out, and in extreme southeastern Saskatchewan around the Alameda area, those storms have now dropped off into the U.S., but that doesn't mean that we couldn't see some storms fire up. Still throughout the evening tonight, there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the broader area for Yorkton, Moosomin, Kipling, Wawota, down toward the Oxbow, Carlisle area, as well as Weyburn-Estevan. Regina, we have dropped off from that watch. Probably a good thing. I don't think we need the underpasses to flood again tonight. But for northern Saskatchewan, of course, it is the smoke that we are dealing with from forest fires here and in Alberta. And those warnings have now dropped as far south as Prince Albert now. So air quality expected to be impacted over these next few days. And what's not helping that is that we have this area of high pressure moving in, really drying things out, really clearing us out, likely not going to be seeing any systems moving through over these next few days. There's a bit of a cold front dropping through the province tonight, but look for temperatures in the mid to upper 20s province-wide over the next week or so here. This high pressure pretty stagnant, and as it drops southward, you can see this rain in northern Montana stays at bay. It's not moving into Saskatchewan really at all as a result. And what's also not helping is our jet stream. You recall last week it was moving from east to west, that intense heat in Ontario, Quebec, moving westward. And now it's moving back on itself again, so it's starting to move eastward. So we got the heat the first time around when it passed us moving east to west. And now as it moves west to east, it's coming back over us. And you can see how it's kind of pinched in at the sides here. This means that it's really kind of not moving, and it's going to be in this pattern for a while. And if you look out to the west here, even warmer air starting to move in. So that is something that we are going to have to watch in our 7-day forecast here. As you'll notice, we could see possibly heat warnings build back in as we head in toward next week. But temperatures, with that cold front moving through, we will get a bit of relief for the weekend. It'll actually be not too bad in Regina, but then that intense heat building back in and getting to 32 degrees possibly as we head into next Wednesday. Showers and cooler temperatures not likely until probably the middle to end to next week. And Saskatoon, a pretty similar pattern here. Again, pretty dry over this next little while. We're seeing sunshine and temperatures close to 30 degrees. Your next best chance of rain, and right now looks like a not too bad of a chance, would be Wednesday, Thursday. So about a third of its average moisture in Saskatoon so far, Sam, but maybe we will add to that next week. Will be nice.
You said it would be done with the heat.
Did I? I don't think I.
Well, the heat warnings, anyways.
That. The heat warnings, the heat. That's
so
staying.
Hot. So hot.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Two tiger cubs made a big splash this week, attending their first swimming lesson in a London zoo. Zach and Crispin pounced on plastic balls in the water as their proud parents looked on. These two are Sumatran tigers, which are considered an endangered species. There are now only a few hundred of them in the wild. We'll be back after the break. There are nearly 440 wildfires across Canada, 250 burning out of control. Right now, 31 fires are burning in Saskatchewan. Flames have destroyed more than 40,000 square kilometers of land across our country, an area about the size of Switzerland. And Quebec is at the center of the crisis.
We have today 13,500 people that have been evacuated. We think that it'll be stable in the next few days.
There are nearly 100 uncontained fires burning in Quebec. Crews are arriving from Atlantic provinces, the U.S. and France to assist. In Ontario, dozens of wildfires are burning in the northern part of that province. And on the west coast, British Columbia is reporting more than 80 fires. Out east, Nova Scotia evacuation orders are being lifted for thousands of people in the Halifax area. Meanwhile, the wildfire smoke continues to affect the air quality and visibility across the country from Vancouver Island to Nova Scotia. Millions of people are feeling the effects. Thomas Daigle has more on how people are coping.
In Canada's biggest city, pandemic face masks made a return as the smell of smoke filled the air.
I also bought eye drops because I got a really bad headache the other day while being outside.
The harmful haze drifting from wildfires, packing an almost invisible punch in Toronto. Though the danger couldn't always be seen, Environment Canada deemed the city's air posed a real risk to health.
Poor air quality, it sucks still.
Schools prepared for the worst, keeping kids inside for recess. This little one even volunteered to help fight the fires himself.
This is the particles that are in it that could be dangerous for the little lungs, so I think an indoor recess isn't going to hurt them.
Some ran out to buy an air purifier, leaving certain stores running low on stock. While golfers at the Canadian Open hit the links with those harmful particles lingering all day.
The amount that's coming from the wildfires at the moment is just completely overwhelming.
Professor Greg Evans monitors the air quality in his backyard and isn't going outside without a mask, based on the pollution he's seeing.
About 4 times higher than normal, which is a lot, but it's nowhere near as severe as what Ottawa and Kingston have been experiencing.
The national capital got to breathe a little easier with Ottawa's air quality finally improving after smoke blanketed the region for days. All the better now for this track meet.
Looks like it's cleared up a lot. It's kind of like a miracle.
The air quality may still worsen in Toronto, with forecasters warning of a very high risk to health on Friday. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
Some of that smoke continues to drift south of the border too. New York State's governor calling it a public health crisis.
We're seeing unhealthy air quality levels in Long Island, New York, Eastern Lake Ontario, Central New York, Western New York. We're tracking the large plume that is originating from primarily Nova Scotia, Eastern, and also Quebec.
Many parts of northeastern United States remain blanketed under a thick haze. For a second straight day, the air in New York City was more polluted than in any other major city in the world. Officials there have been handing out N95 masks to help residents deal with the imported air pollution. Low visibility in the morning also prompted flight delays and cancellations at major airports around New York. Strong winds have pushed some of the smoke from Canada as far south as North Carolina. To the other side of the world, where the flooding that followed the breaching of a dam in Ukraine this week has killed at least 14 people. That's according to officials from both Ukraine and Russia. But as Chris Brown reports, rescue efforts were temporarily suspended today.
As if having their homes flooded and their lives washed away wasn't grotesque enough, as these Ukrainians were being rescued, Russian artillery opened fire on them.
With the sheriff,
Ukraine's chief rabbi on a humanitarian mission to flooded Kherson was one of those forced to dive for cover.
Promote the river and the Russian
Ukraine claims 9 people were injured, but it may have been this man the guns were aiming for. President Vladimir Zelensky visited rescuers and met with patients in a hospital. We will rebuild everything, he said. The enormity of the breaching of the dam, which was controlled by Russia, and Ukraine claims destroyed by Russia too, is still emerging, although the many thousands stuck on the South Russian-controlled side of the river appear to be the worst off.
People are really stranded in areas completely flooded without any means to leave.
One hazard are countless unearthed mines that could now wash up anywhere, along with oil, gas, and other pollutants, says this former Ukrainian environment minister.
We have evidence that some cemeteries were destroyed, and unfortunately, that is a great pollution as well.
A pollution from bodies.
Yes. I don't want to say it very loudly.
But even as the enormous rescue effort continued, so did the combat, and Ukraine's counteroffensive may be intensifying. And Russia's defense minister suggested battles are raging. The enemy attempted to attack, he claimed, but we destroyed 30 tanks in 2 hours. Bluster without a shred of proof. Whatever battles may be unfolding, Ukraine's government is staying silent about them, likely for strategic reasons, but also to keep the focus on the expanding humanitarian catastrophe. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
Another warm morning in Regina. We're looking at 21 degrees with some sun and cloud. We do have a bit of a wind coming from the north tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon, so that'll kind of take the edge off the heat a little bit. We're clearing out, but we may be a little bit hazy in the Queen City tomorrow. Those winds from the north pulling that forest fire smoke down south will be at 28 degrees. But keep in mind, forest fire smoke likely going to be denser the further north you go. And in Saskatoon tomorrow morning, the air quality health index will be around a level 5 out of 10 or so. So if you're particularly susceptible, do be careful if you're heading outside. We're around 20 degrees. And as we head into the afternoon, probably still going to be hazy. The worst of this is going to be in the Prince Albert area, where the air quality health index there could be at a level 10 out of 10. Now, speaking of the Prince Albert area, we'll leave you on a happy note tonight. This young elk calf posing for a photo by C.J. Lessard in Prince Albert National Park. So very photogenic, Sam. It's like he just knew it was happening.
Adorable. Just pose. Got it.
He's got it.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before it was closed down because of an unfortunate bear mace incident where approximately 200 people were affected, it was a happy day in Wascana Park in Regina. After years of being closed for teardown and construction, the new, very fancy Wascana pool is officially open. We stopped by to see what swimmers think.
Honestly, I think the water slides look amazing. The amount of pools, okay, that's huge. I think there's like 3 pools. There's a lane pool. I don't really know, but when you look at it from the bird's eye view of the photo, I'm just, yes, it's about time.
Part of the pool? The slide, but I never went down it. But make sure to subscribe.
Are you excited? Okay.
The blue one?
Oh, it's cool. I'm glad that they did this. Yeah, it's fun for the whole family, I guess.
It's amazing? Yeah. How amazing? Like, amazing.
It's pretty nice, actually. It's the water slides are fun. Just looking forward to the diving board being open soon.
I like on all the slides because it's my favorite to go on all the slides.
So do they go pretty fast?
I like going fast because it's my favorite going on the slides.
And Ethan will have more on the bear mace incident a little later on tonight in the 11 o'clock show. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or /Saskatoon, or you can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. As I mentioned, Ethan will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Up next, it's Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Vegas Golden Knights and Florida Panthers. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game.